What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Vigilante. You're watching the Vigilante Effect, and today I'm going to be going through some essential items for the PlayStation 4. The generation of the PlayStation 4 is coming to an end. However, this doesn't mean that this is the time to give up playing the PlayStation 4. The games that were working for the PlayStation 4 might still be relevant to the PlayStation 5. And if they're not, that means that there's more reason to continue playing the PS4, even until the PS5 kind of starts to get its ground. So let's start with the PlayStation 4 exclusive. First and foremost, we have Killzone Shadowfall. Now, this is one of the release titles of the PlayStation 4. This is continuing the Killzone saga from the PlayStation 3 era. Killzone 1 started on PlayStation 2, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is a must-have, especially if you're a big PlayStation fan, just to add to your collection, and if you enjoy first-person shooters. Next is Infamous Second Son. The Infamous series was amazing on the PlayStation 3, and Second Son continued that. The graphics, obviously, compared to the PlayStation 3 era, are unparalleled. Now, they still hold up. However, there are better games in terms of graphical power, but this is a solid game, and it's definitely an addition to any collector. Uncharted 4. Now, I haven't personally played this particular game, but from everything I'm hearing about it and what my brother has told me about it, this is the best of the Uncharted series. The Uncharted series were among the best games on the PlayStation 3. Graphically and technically, everything about them. The twists and turns in the story itself. I remember Uncharted 1, the ending for that just blew me away. And Uncharted 3 was among the first games that played out like a movie. And so this is continuing that particular process. And from everything I'm hearing about it, this is a must-have game. Horizon Zero Dawn. This is one of the exclusives on the PlayStation 4 and one of the original titles that were released only on the PS4. They've announced recently that they're releasing this on the PC. It's a good move for PC gamers for sure, because this game, the story, the mechanics, the open world, everything about it is amazing. The graphics were really good as well. I think there are definitely better graphics now. However, this particular game was a lot of fun to play and a lot of fun to be had with. And of course, God of War. This took the God of War series to a whole different level in terms of story, in terms of the way that the camera functions, in terms of the gameplay. Everything about it was a little bit different, but at the same time felt a little bit familiar to Kratos. And the addition of his son in this particular game, for me personally, having my own kids now, it made the game mean a lot more. Boss battles meant a lot more. The very first boss battle, no spoilers, but it had to do something with his son, saving his son. And just that particular aspect of it motivated me even more to make sure that I tried to defeat that particular boss. I really enjoyed this game, and graphically, it's amazing. It's definitely top tier. I haven't played Uncharted 4, so I don't know how it compares to Uncharted 4, but so far this is definitely the best graphical game on the PlayStation 4, and really good story, really good gameplay, really good everything, honestly. I can't really knock on this game much.
Your head is out of the thing.
What?
Your head is out of the frame.
It's not in the frame?
No.
Swear. Say wallah. Okay, so Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man. This is the first game that I actually finished trophies on. I'm not really a trophy person at all, but I made a platinum on this. And the reason for that, I think one is it's not difficult to achieve the platinum. And two, it wasn't difficult because of the fact that it was so much fun. I wanted so much more out of it. Every single mission or side activity that you did had a meaning to it. There were things that would allow you to unlock more suits for Spider-Man. And so you wanted to see how those suits played out. And so to do that, you had to play the side missions. The story was phenomenal. This is honestly, I've heard it before, and I think this statement stands. It's one of the best stories in terms of a Spider-Man, not just game, but Spider-Man story in general. Even a cinematic story. It's really good. But yeah, Spider-Man, definitely. If you're a PS4 owner, this is a must-have. This and God of War are probably enough reasons to buy a PlayStation 4 to begin with. Unless they release these games on the PC and makes that particular argument null and void, anybody who's not playing these games is missing out on something big within this particular generation of games. So those are the PlayStation 4 exclusives. So let's move on to a different category, which are some of the games that were remade from, or rather remastered from the PlayStation 3 era, that if you haven't played on the PlayStation 3, I think it's necessary for you to have them on the PlayStation 4. Or if you just want to replay them or have them in your collection, I don't really usually collect or add to my collection from remasters. At least I don't seek out to unless the opportunity is there for discounts, etc. However, these are games that I would make exceptions for, and definitely you should play them. The first of which, hands down, is The Last of Us. And this particular game, I think, is a very top contender for best game on the PlayStation 3. It came out late in the PlayStation 3's life cycle, and it showed the graphical power of the PlayStation 3 or its capability, or what it could have done. And I just wish that there was a little bit more time, even though PlayStation had a lot of time to begin with, but I wish there was a little bit more time for developers to be able to harness that kind of power and use it for other games so we can have even better games on the PlayStation 3. It's one of my favorite systems to collect for, but this particular game, The Last of Us, if you haven't played it, you definitely are missing out on a great, let's say, apocalyptic zombie, very strongly story-driven and fun game. And of course, we talked about Uncharted earlier, the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. This has Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 all on one, and I believe this is a remaster as well. And at the time when it came out, it had an exclusive Uncharted 4 multiplayer beta, but you know that's no longer relevant at this particular point in time. But if you haven't played Uncharted, this is the time to play it. Another game, this now is not my taste of games. This is Skyrim. Skyrim. So, I'm not a huge fan of Skyrim. This is not my type of game style. This game has been made, remade. It was on the PlayStation 3. It's on the PlayStation 5. PlayStation 4. Hey, maybe on the PlayStation 5. There's even a VR version of this, which I have. I haven't tried it out yet. But I'm looking forward to trying it out. And this was a special request from my cousin. So, I would definitely say you should have this. Next, I have games that continue an era from last generation. Some of these games are games that are continuing series from before, or taking a concept from before and just expanding it, and giving it a little bit of a twist. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Obviously, if you're a Metal Gear fan, this is a must-have game for anybody. All the Metal Gear games are great. Metal Gear 4 was one of the best games on the PlayStation 3, and likewise Metal Gear 5 is a great game to play and a great game to have. I think my favorite series of all video games, I love Assassin's Creed. From the very first game, I think that was much more underrated. Assassin's Creed 2 obviously had a lot of praise, and on and on and on and on. Assassin's Creed Origins takes it a little bit differently and introduces some of the RPG elements. And I'm going to have this right next to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes the RPG element and brings it forward even more. So this one takes place in ancient Egypt. This one takes place in ancient Rome. Both ancient civilizations are very interesting to explore, especially with the climbing mechanics, etc. I thought that would be really cool to kind of see the pyramids in real life and be able to scale them inside the video game. This is illegal to do that in Egypt. This one I'm going to make an exception. This is not part of this. I would say it's not necessarily part of the necessities for the PlayStation 4, but it is different enough that I would include it, and that is Mirror's Edge. It didn't receive much critical acclaim, just as the first game honestly didn't have much critical acclaim either. It was just a new type of game, which was, I would say, first-person platforming. That at the time was completely different than anything we really had. The fact that you can run on walls, on the side of the walls, etc., and just jump, it was a completely different feeling in terms of playing a video game. Dishonored, man, Dishonored is amazing, and Dishonored 2 is just as good. The art direction of these games is great. You know, the setting, I love the setting, and it's first-person shooter, RPG, sword fighting, and it feels so good. And it's stealth, and you have powers, you know, superpowers, etc. This, if you haven't seen my Dishonored review, check out my Dishonored review. I'll post a link to it below. I love that game, and this one is just as good, if not better. So this, I think, is definitely a must-have. And now I have these two. When I say from last generation, I mean Lord of the Rings in general, and exploring with Lord of the Rings gameplay. That's more from the PlayStation 2 era. But this came around the time of The Hobbit, when they were kind of re-energizing the Lord of the Ring franchise. You have Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, Middle-earth. On the PlayStation 3, this also released, but on the PlayStation 3, it's so bad in terms of gameplay is really good, but graphics, it's horrendous. It's completely inexcusable. It feels like the whole game is bugged. On the PlayStation 4, it's much better. It's not even a comparison. It's night and day, in my opinion. And the gameplay is so fun. This is really, really a fun game. It kind of feels like Assassin's Creed, but much more fast paced. You have these particular areas that you have to take over in terms of fighting different leaders, etc. So kind of like Far Cry, when you have to free an area, or even Just Cause. And then Shadow of War just expands on that as well. So these two games, if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, these are definitely must-have games. And lastly, in terms of games, I have two games that are, I would say, from the newer, the more recent games that came out. And those are Red Dead Redemption 2, the graphics for it, the story for it, the gameplay for it. Again, if you liked Red Dead Redemption 1, you're going to love Red Dead Redemption 2. If you didn't play Red Dead Redemption 1, you're going to love Red Dead Redemption 2. This is a good game to have in your collection and a good game to play. And likewise, there is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you're a Star Wars fan, you definitely need to play this game. It's not like, what was that game? Force Unleashed. It's not like Force Unleashed or Force Unleashed 2, in that Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2 you're playing a much more powerful Force user. Here, you're playing as a Padawan, really as a Padawan that his training never really ended and is continuing the training. It's during the era where Darth Vader is hunting down the last of the Jedi after Order 66. So some events of Order 66 play out rather in the game, and you see from the Rebel side and you see from a Jedi Padawan side trying to escape the Empire's grasp on him. It's really good. I really enjoyed this game.
So there are a couple of games I'd like to mention because they either did not come out at the time of the recording, or I didn't get to play them by the time I recorded this video. So the first game that I would definitely like to mention is Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is a samurai adventure game. It's kind of like an action RPG, open world. It's beautifully told as a story. It's beautifully displayed on the screen. You're able to even go into a special Japanese film mode where it's like black and white and everything is written, or it's actually spoken in Japanese. It's just a really cool samurai adventure game that I definitely would recommend to anybody. And the combat is, I wouldn't say, it's not complex, it's not difficult, it's not like I would call like a Dark Souls type of game, but there is some complexity to the combat system where you have to change certain stances for certain types of fights or certain types of enemies, etc. But this is a really fun game. It's a really well told story, and again, it just follows the just the formula that Sony has come up with their exclusives and making them pretty much movie like it's almost like you're in a movie as you play these games. Speaking of movies, I might get a lot of hate for this, but honestly, I really have to mention this game, which is The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us 2, I had not played it by the time the recording came out, and as soon as it came out, I was glued to it, and I was hesitant to play it because of the fact that it got so much hate just across the board. But that is, to me, it was just one of the masterpieces of this generation of games. The story, again, it just picked up from The Last of Us Part 1. It did take some, some turns that maybe fans of the series may not like, and I definitely understand why that would be the case. I actually was not very happy for the first half of that game. And then the second half, I was really irritated for the first maybe, hour or so. And for those who played, definitely know why. But I will say that all of it came together for me. And aside from, you know, definitely there are a couple of things I didn't like about it, and things I didn't, I didn't really jive with. But overall, just the gameplay, it's The Last of Us, and The Last of Us was amazing. So you're repeating that formula, and it's fun. It's not broken. So you don't need to fix it. And the story, man, the story just had so many layers and layers in it. And if you're just not that type of person that likes to sit down and think about these things, I don't know, you might not like it. If you're not really into emotional kind of stories, you may not really be into it. For me, I'm a sucker for those kinds of things. And so, yeah, that's definitely a game I would recommend. The Last of Us Part 2, not for kids, for sure not for kids, and not to play in front of kids. Just, be warned. And the next game that I'd like to mention is... This one is definitely dear to me, and that is the Mafia Trilogy, which essentially is Mafia Definitive Edition, which is the remake of the original Mafia. I have yet to play this, but I'm putting it on this list for one reason and one reason only, and that is because of the original Mafia. I've played that game when it first came out on the PC, before it came out on any console. It was unparalleled in terms of graphics, in terms of the open world mechanics. I mean, yeah, GTA was there and whatnot, but this had a completely different feel to it. The story was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and it had things in there that at the time it was like, whoa, really? You can get stopped by a cop because you're speeding, or because and you need to fill up the car with gas, etc., etc. I mean, these little things now, they're not a big deal, but at the time it was like, it was cool. It was just cool to know that you can actually be stopped by a cop for actually doing things you're not supposed to do. But the story itself was, again, how can I say, it was just phenomenal. So seeing that this was remade, in the same way that, let's say, Resident Evil 2 was remade and Final Fantasy was remade. And those are games I can't even speak about because I still haven't played them. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to like them. So you might as well throw them on the list as well. But this game being remade and looking at the graphics and just looking at the reviews that it got, I'm confident from what I know about Mafia, getting this trilogy, or even just getting the Mafia Definitive Edition, the remake, is definitely a must-have for the PlayStation 4. Some honorable mentions, I would say Deathstranding is an honorable mention. If you're into racing games, the most recent Need for Speed is an honorable mention. Need for Speed Heat. I can't think of any other particular honorable mentions. I like Marvel versus Capcom Infinite. A lot of people did not like that particular game. Injustice 2 was a great game for fighting, if you guys want to play that. Until Dawn, Bloodborne, those are honorable mentions. I just haven't played those particular games. Additionally, an additional controller. You can find some of these on sale. Right now there was a sale for $46 on Amazon. If you find it still, go look for it. Sometimes Walmart usually has it for much cheaper. And a gaming drive, an external gaming drive. This is a 2 terabyte drive. It costs about $80. I think it's not a necessity. However, if you have a 500 gigabyte system,
that's definitely not going to cut it. If you have a 1 terabyte system, it's not going to cut it. Especially if you plan to play all these games, or even more than that. And if you have PlayStation Plus, forget about it, because you have multiple games you have to download. So you're going to have to constantly download and delete, download and delete, download and delete. This kind of just helps it make it easier in terms of managing that, having that external drive. So those are the games that, and the items that I think are, I would say, necessities or recommendations for a new PlayStation 4 owner. Or if you are an existing owner and you just haven't played some of these games, I would recommend playing them. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with some of these? Do you disagree with them? Let me know below if you like the video. Leave a thumbs up for me and subscribe.